All right, guys, in this video, we're gonna go over the buttons, the menus, and the navigation of the Revic ACURA BR10 Gen 2. So in this product, we've kept the overall structure very, very similar to the original ACURA BLR10B. So in the Gen 1, essentially it's the same. We've just changed the display and made a little bit more data available in that display. And so you'll see just some slight differences. I'm gonna set this up. I've got a all-in setup on the binos. We're looking downrange. And I'm gonna blast this thing at high power on the display. And so it kind of makes it just a little fuzzy. So forgive me, Jarrett, just a little bit because we get some exposure issues looking outside in the bright if I turn the brightness down too low. We'll start with the buttons. So if we look at the buttonology, I've got a fire button, a menu button, and then I've got a up and down button over here and with an alternate F and M. So that's gonna come in handy if you ever wanna switch this to like left-hand mode. Like if you're an archer, you wanna run left-hand mode, you've still got a fire button there in your left hand. Then you can put it down and you can shoot. So we'll see that in the menus. So let's just navigate through there. A short press of the button turns on the display, so everything's up and running. You can see Bluetooth, you can see like your yards, you can see this lower display shows you where your ballistic outputs come from, and then you see your base wind. So I've got a profile actually loaded in here. To access the menu, I hit the menu button and hold it for 3 seconds. So press and hold for 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. There, now there's my menu. Now I'm gonna just scroll through here and give you guys a look. So I saw temp, I saw Bluetooth, I got brightness, I got calibrate, that's for the compass calibration, latitude, hand, so that's your left hand, right hand, units, mode, okay, and back to temp. So let me just go through these. So in temp, let's say I want to override the temp. I've got some solar gain on the binos. The temperature says 70, but it's actually 50 degrees out here. I just jumped out of the truck. I can use my down arrow and I can go to 50 degrees. And now when I take my ballistics to save that, I hit fire, right? And now when I go to my ballistics, it'll override that. If I use my arrows to go to the next one, Bluetooth, so to edit it, you hit menu, and now you see on is there. Now you can use your arrows to adjust it, off, on, and then fire to save. If I hit fire a couple times or I press and hold fire, it will return me to the main menu. Brightness, auto, okay? So this is a cool one. I'm going to talk about quick keys here at the end. Here is a menu setting, so you can go navigate to this and do the menu, or you can actually do it with a quick key. So if I hit menu once, now that's editable, and I can change that to 4, which is brightest, 3, 2, and then 1. Sorry about that, guys. It gets exposure problems if we go down. So 4 and then auto. I actually just leave mine in auto all the time. It's super handy. Hit fire once to save it, and then I go to the next one. Now on this one, if you calibrate, let's just hit calibrate and we'll hit start. So that's menu. So you just basically need to take this thing while it's counting and you need to carve a figure 8 like this. And what it'll do, it's not gonna calibrate because I'm not doing it right here. So I'm gonna abort that. When you do it like this, and it'll usually calibrate for you in about 10 or 15 seconds. So you do that to about 15 seconds and then look in there and it'll say successful or not. So the calibration of the compass, and then you've got latitude. Okay, so that's gonna go north to south, 90 to 90 degrees. It's gonna come default at 44. I wonder why that is. Well, it's because where we hunt. So you've got your latitude. That is probably sensitive enough that if you go 3 or 4 states, you want to change it. If I go to Alaska, I want to change it. If I go to Texas, I want to change it. If I go to South America, South Africa, Australia, you want to change it. So that it creates some calculations that you want to be able to access. Okay, so let's go back to that menu. That's latitude. And if you remember, right, I want to change latitude, short press of the menu button. Now the lower is flashing. That means I can edit it. If I just increment up or down, and then when I'm done, I hit the fire button once to save it. Let's show you what that returns. If I hit the fire button again, it returns you to the main display. So the fire is on, it actuates the laser rangefinder, and then when you're in the menu, the fire button saves your setting, and comes up one menu level. If you hit the fire button again, it comes out of the menu back to the main display. Or if you just press and hold the fire button, it does the same thing. So on, press and hold menu for 3 seconds. Okay, so temp, Bluetooth, brightness, calibrate, latitude, hand. Okay, remember I was telling you about that. So short press a menu, adjust to left hand, save, and now left hand is the range. So I'm going to use left hand, take a range, and right hand becomes your wind inputs and your quick key values. So it's kind of crazy, but it's a nice feature when you're running this thing for archery. We got a lot of guys that use this for archery. So I got to hit mode over here. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then arrow. Boy, that's crazy to use that. Okay, now we should be back to, yep, we're back to the other side. Okay, now in units, the way we do all of our units in our app and on our devices is you pick from US or SI, so that's, your pressure's in inches of mercury or it's in millibars, right? Inches or centimeters. So US, SI, and then you can see the yards is flashing up there. You also have the option to switch to meters. So you can have US units with meter output, or you can have SI units with yard output. You see how that works? There's 4 options. So we're going to leave that in US yards. So press fire once to save it. Then we'll go to the mode. Mode is your ranging mode. So right now it's set to profile. I dumped a profile on there, so it's set to profile. If I hit the menu button, that'll flash profile. It says it's an RSR profile. That's pretty cool. If I adjust this with the arrows, I can clear that profile. I can set it to range only, or I can set it to angle modified range, which is just the horizontal component. Most of the archer guys run angle modified range just to get a horizontal component. So that gives me all those. I'm going to go back to my profile loaded, hit the mode button. No, not the mode button, the fire button to save it. And then I can go to the next. There's temp. Okay, guys, we just ran through the entire menus and navigation. I'm going to hit fire to return to the main display. It's pretty straightforward. Basically, it's in your quick start guide. It's in the owner's manual. There's an owner's manual you can access through the app, and that kind of takes you to the fully updated instructions. But essentially, as soon as you see the options that are there and you learned your buttonology, press and hold menu for 3 seconds, menu selects for editing, edit with your arrow buttons, fire saves that, arrows adjust to the next menu setting. As soon as you get your buttonology down, the menu is super easy to master. The things that you're going to use the temperature override. I access the calibration quite a bit because I've been using that ray point feature, and so the compass calibration is super important. Pretty much everything else in there, I just leave it set once. If I go to Africa, on my annual trip down there, I'll change the latitude. That'll affect a few calculations that have some value. The menus are pretty straightforward. The cool things that you can do by accessing our quick menus are what I use the most, and I use those almost all the time. And so a quick menu is essentially a key that changes a setting outside of the menus. So let's just start with a really easy one. We've got a bunch of targeting modes in this device. So you've got a long range mode, you've got a near mode, and a far mode. And you can have long range turned on with near and far. The far mode essentially will look past all obstructions, whether it's snow or standing dead timber or fog, and it'll get the farthest data that it sees and tell you what that range is. The near does the same thing. I almost universally run my rangefinder on near mode, not in long range, just standard near mode. And I use that hard bottom edge with that new aiming reticle to come down onto my target without getting down into obstructions or interference from vegetation or etc. So it went on that near mode, I'll bring it down and I'll take that range. But then all of a sudden something pops up and you need a far target mode. Let me show you how easy that is to switch. So fire turns it on, and you can see up in the top in the center, by the yards, I've got that big N. That's near mode. So the quick key to change your targeting mode is just a short press of the menu button. So now I'm in far mode. The next press is long range near, long range far. And there's your four options, right? Back to near. So your first quick key, we've got that sorted: near mode, far mode, long range near, long range far. And that's just a short press of the menu when you're in the main display. Okay, so we have a brightness setting. We talked about in the menu, you can change it. So we put it there for convenience and memory, but there's also a quick key for it. Let's say auto's not quite doing it for me and I need to override that and force it to a certain brightness setting. Usually that's like a real low brightness maybe. And you want it to be a certain setting that auto's not giving you. So display is on and it's awake. If you press and hold the menu button and then within 3 seconds press either the up or down arrow, that puts you into that quick key menu. So press and hold, down arrow, auto, right there. There's the brightness 3, 2, 1, 3, and then 4, and then back to auto. So press and hold the menu button, and while the button's down, push one of these other buttons, get the setting where you want it. Press and hold the menu button, get the setting where you want it, let go of the menu button. So it's really simple. Once you get coordinated in how to do that, that access to that quick key is huge. Like you don't have to press and hold for 3 seconds, navigate to the brightness and go change it. You just push the button, adjust it where you want, it's done. It's super fast. So along the same lines, we have a couple other settings. Let's talk wind inputs. That's a really good one to look at. So with it awake, you can look on the right side and we've got a 28-mile-an-hour wind or a 30-mile-an-hour wind, right? Let's turn that to like a 15-mile-an-hour wind. If you hit one of those arrows and then you hit the mode button, right now it lets you do your direction. So let's make it at 2 o'clock. And then you hit the fire button to save it. So now I've got a 15-mile-an-hour wind at 2 o'clock. So let's go back over that one more time. So you're at the main display. All you do is start pushing one of the arrow buttons. So let's go up. Let's make it a 20-mile-an-hour wind. Hit the menu button. And now that puts you in direction mode and we can make it a 630 wind right there. And then hit fire to take you back to the main display. So that's now a 20-mile-an-hour wind at 630. So I've just put a vector wind in. We'll talk about that in ballistic. It's a really cool methodology to get an exact wind solution that gives you your crosswind component and your target component. And then it brings in things in like aerodynamic jump, spin drift, Coriolis effect. All of those things get added into that. And if you look, if I show you what a solution looks like, if you look down in the bottom, I get a wind correction that is directional. It shows you left error, shows you left 1.6 minutes. So the nice thing about putting a directional wind in is you get a directional correction in. Now, let's say I want to just revert back to my base wind mode, which is the standard wind output. If I go to it's on, if I just press and hold both buttons, you see in the top right-hand corner, it just reset that wind to a 3 o'clock or 9 o'clock wind at 5 miles per hour. Essentially says a full value wind of a 5. And now if we take a range, let me show you what that looks like. If I take a range, now it shows you left or right 1.1. And what you're not getting is spin drift. You're not getting any of the other values. You're just getting the full value wind crosswind component. So that's a really cool system that we use. Base wind gets us 600-700 yards, really fast solutions, don't have to put any inputs in. You're shooting 1100 yards with a tricky situation. Put your wind vector in and get the full solution. It's very cool. All right, so we saw how to reset base wind. So halfway between base wind and vector wind is if I just start putting my values in, I can put the actual 10 in there for a base wind value. So it on the fly adjusts the base wind value. Base wind value is attached to your profile. So I just overrode the profile value to show you a base wind value that is 10 directionally. That's if you don't want to do the math of taking 5 times 2. So 1.1 times 2 is 2.2. So we should get a 2.2 here, 2.1 right there. Perfect. So I just showed you the quick keys for brightness, for targeting mode, for resetting the values, and a really valuable quick key that I like to use a lot is what is my last data? And this is the way that you access things like, well, what's the azimuth of that shot? What is the incline angle of that shot? A lot of people put that into display and it just clutters it up. You don't need that for 98% of the use of the rangefinder when you're hunting or shooting or recreating or exploring. But sometimes you want to do like validation, you want to compare data sets. So if I go in here and I take a shot, there's my data, right? 10.4, 2.1. If I press the menu button and hold it, and within that time period, press the fire button before 3 seconds in this case. So there's fire. Now it gives me all the values. So my range was 636. Firmware, okay, the angle, azimuth, temperature, pressure, speed, correction, elevation correction. Here's the Revic Smart Range. So you can just get in there. So they're hardware, firmware hardware. So all those values are there that you might want to extract from that. You just press the fire button and it takes you back to the beginning. Okay, so quick keys are really handy. You're going to use all of those that I just showed you all the time when you're working in the field. So kind of bake that in, practice it, use it, and then pretty quick you'll remember it. It's super easy to keep track of. All right, so we've covered the main menu and the settings that you have in there. We've covered the quick keys, how that works. We've shown you a little bit of insight into how the wind inputs work for the ballistics as part of the quick key system. And we showed you the buttonology and how to navigate. So really what we need to get into next is we need to show you guys how to set up and sync a profile. So we're going to use the app, we're going to create a profile, we're going to send it to the device, we're going to show you how the ballistics work, run you through that whole system, and then we can start jumping into some of the other features that we've developed in this Gen 2 version of the ACURA BR10 binocular from Revic.